So the UK Data Service holds the UK's largest collection of research data. It is home to the UK's only nationally funded research infrastructure for curating and providing access to social science data. The UK Data Service has been influential across the world since it was first established in its original form at the University of Essex in 1967. Pioneers in data curation and secure long-term research access to data, our expertise continues to transform social science teaching and learning alongside evidence-based policy reform across the UK. Our data management guidance, best practice policies and protocols are used by national data archives, international research organisations and researchers alike. Our agile response to COVID-19 is enabling rapid research into the economic and social impacts of the pandemic, having hosted the first online COVID-19 data dive last month with an international attendance. Researchers use the data we hold to investigate themes including the mental health of loneliness, inequalities widened by the pandemic, and public behaviours affecting policy messaging. We frequently advise at a national and international level on data governance, ethics and confidentiality, and more recently advised the Cabinet Office on its development of the draft data ethics framework, which influenced the implementation of the Digital Economy Act 2017. This introductory webinar is for anyone with an interest in social research who wants to hear more about the vast array of resources we offer. You will learn about the different types of quantitative and qualitative data that we hold, how to find those data collections using our online resource tools, and how to register to access datasets in a number of different formats. We'll also demonstrate how some of our data collections can be viewed and analysed online, as well as providing an overview of our support and training resources for students, researchers and teachers. This webinar will last about an hour, so that will consist of a 30 to 40-minute presentation, and then we'll have time for some questions at the end. And this is a brief overview of the contents of today's webinar. So we will explain a little bit about who we are, what we do, what data is, what sort of data we hold, and a little bit about the online resources that we have and the guidance we can provide you with. So the UK Data Service is funded by the Economic and Social Research Council to meet the needs of teachers, students, researchers from all sectors, including academia, central and local government, charities and foundations, independent research centres, think tanks and business consultants, and the commercial sector. Our collection includes major UK government-sponsored surveys, cross-national surveys, longitudinal surveys, UK census data, international aggregate business data, and qualitative data. As I said a little while ago, we provide access to high-quality local, regional, national and international social and economic data. We provide support for policy-relevant research in the higher education, public and commercial sectors, guidance and training for the development of skills in data use, the development of best practice, data preservation and sharing standards, and the sharing of expertise with international data providers to remove barriers to accessing data. And this is our primary aim really, is to provide users with seamless and flexible access to a wide range of data resources to facilitate high quality social and economic research. All of our activities stem from this aim. So the UK Data Archive is the lead organisation, and we work with colleagues across the UK to deliver the UK Data Service, collaborating with research data experts at JISC, CMIST, University of Leeds, the University of Southampton, the University of Edinburgh and University College London. So this is what the homepage of our website looks like. I'd like to invite you all to spend some time exploring our website once we finish the webinar. You can use the menu across the top of the page to navigate your way around, depending on what topics you're interested in. We do have a whole host of resources, and many of your questions will probably be answered by these, and we will be looking at some of these later on. But for now, I'm just going to highlight the information for new users and frequently asked questions tab right at the top of the page. So, who is the service for? Most of our regular users are affiliated with an institute of higher education, so staff, researchers and students. But contrary to popular belief, anyone and everyone can register with us, and we have many users from other sectors such as local and national government departments and charities. We also do have people with us that wish to do research for personal reasons. We also have the option, say, for people not associated with any organisations to join us and pursue their interests. We are really keen for people to explore data, learn new things and improve their skills. We currently have 23,000 users globally who are responsible for around 60,000 data downloads every year. So, what is data? Data are facts and statistics collected together for reference or analysis. It can be distinct pieces of information or numeric information such as crime rates, unemployment rates, literacy rates, or the risk of developing a health condition. Data is collected in many ways, including through surveys, administrative records, business records, and censuses. And this webinar is going to walk you through the types of data we hold and show you some examples of how they can be used and the outputs you can produce using them. So how do you get data? So of course you can collect it yourself, so this would be primary data collection. However, this can be expensive, both in terms of money and time. Think about how expensive and time consuming it would be to conduct a survey of 40,000 households. You also do need the expertise and experience to be able to do so. So secondary data analysis is often more favourable. It doesn't usually cost you anything. There are a large range of available data sources. This data will also be representative, robust and transparent. So this is where we come in. We can provide you with access to secondary data which is ready for you to analyse. We are also on hand to offer advice about the data and how to use it for your research. It is important to note here that we do not collect the data ourselves. Data owners and researchers deposit the data with us and you access it through us. So that kind of leads us on to the next slide, sources of data. The data we hold comes from a variety of sources and we are allowed to disseminate them under license from the original data creator. As I said, we don't collect the data ourselves, they are deposited with us and we curate, preserve and catalogue them and then make them available through the UK Data Service. So we get our data from national statistical authorities such as the Office for National Statistics, the National Records of Scotland, Northern Ireland Statistics and Research Agency, UK government departments including the Home Office, the Department for Business and Innovation Skills and the Department for Work and Pensions, intergovernmental organisations including the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank and the Office for Economic Cooperation and Development, research institutes including NatCen, the Institute for Social and Economic Research and the Centre for Longitudinal Studies, and also from individual researchers as well, so anybody that may have conducted research as part of their PhD or something like that. So the UK Data Service holds just over 7,300 datasets of a number of types, and new datasets are added all of the time, so I'm sure as you can imagine we are having a lot of COVID related data deposited with us at the moment, which is great. And we're going to focus on a few types of data today, all of which are available through our service. So you can see some of those listed there: survey microdata, international microdata, census data. And we will start by looking at microdata and macrodata and the differences between them. So microdata is data at individual level. It is collected from individuals through surveys. So for instance, a national survey might collect age, the home address, educational level, and employment status of a person, many other variables as well, but that is recorded separately for every person that responds. So that's microdata. Macrodata is data derived from microdata by statistics on groups or aggregates such as counts, means, or frequencies. It is data at a region or country level and is useful for examining how trends change over time. And as I say, macrodata can be created from microdata sources. So that is the first type of data that we will look at. We have a large amount of survey microdata. We will look at some examples of those in a moment. But these are mostly individual or household level data, which has been anonymised to prevent disclosure. This means it's not possible to identify individuals from the data. They usually contain large sample sizes and are nationally representative. And these kinds of data are generally analysed using a statistics package like SPSS, Starter or R. And as I say, this type of data are really flexible as it allows you to produce your own tables, populations, and to look at relationships between multiple attributes. This is a screenshot of what survey microdata might look like when you download them. So this is data from the British Social Attitude Survey from 2009, open in SPSS. So in the rows, you can see the people. So each row of this data set is an individual. And as you can see, they've been given a number, so they are anonymised. And in the columns are variables which are based on the answers to questions each person has been asked. So for example, you can see there the age at the time of the survey. And this is an example of the kinds of outputs that you can produce from survey microdata. Here we have a cross-tabulation of BMI by age group for the 2014 Health Survey for England sample. You can see the BMI in the columns and the age bands in the rows, as well as the totals for each. So we can see of the total people surveyed, 57 were considered underweight with a BMI of less than 18.5, and 25 of those 57 people were aged between 16 and 24. It's important to note here as well that any outputs made from the data that you get through the UK Data Service must be properly cited. And we do have a citation for each of the data sets within the catalogue record that we ask you to use if you are creating outputs like this one. Graphs are another example of an output that you can create from survey microdata. So this graph shows people's gross weekly pay from their main job broken down by sex using annual population survey data from between 2004 and 2014. So we can see how this number has changed over recent years. So we can see that in 2004, the average gross weekly pay for men was £420.57, and for women it was £266.30. And in 2014, for men it was £499.96 per week, and women was £349.36 per week. And some of the most commonly used of our microdata are the UK surveys, and these are mostly about individuals or households. The surveys produce very high quality data. They are produced by experienced research organisations such as the ONS and the National Centre for Social Research, who have had many years of experience in sampling, data collection and analysis. They have their own methodologies, researchers and teams of interviewers, and they are mostly nationally representative at the UK level or the counties within the UK, depending on the different survey. They do tend to have a large sample size. So, for example, the Labour Force survey interviews 60,000 people every quarter. And these data sets are repeated across national surveys. Many of them are repeated annually, or at least most years. But each time they run, they use a new sample of people. They do often use the same questions each time they run, so then they can be used to track trends of the population over time. So they kind of offer a snapshot of a specific point in time. They cover many topics, including health, work, crime, social attitudes, family expenditure, living costs, and housing. So here is some of the key data that we hold. And these are kind of our most widely used surveys, I guess. The first one is the labour force survey, and this is by a long way the most widely used UK survey, which we will talk a little bit more about in a second. And other popular examples include the annual population survey, which began in 2004, and this aims to provide data that can produce reliable estimates at local authority level. Key topics covered in the survey include education, employment, health and ethnicity, and the annual population survey comprises key variables from the labour force survey and all its associated LFS boosts and the APS boost sample. We've also got the crime survey for England and Wales, and this is formerly the British crime survey, and this provides an important source of information about levels of crime, public attitudes to crime and other related issues. The results play an important role in informing government policy. The survey measures the amount of crime in England and Wales by asking people about crimes they have experienced in the last year. This includes crimes not reported to the police, so it is an important alternative to police records. So if we have a look at the labour force survey in more detail, the labour force survey is a study of the employment circumstances of the UK population, and it's carried out by the ONS. It started as an annual survey in 1975 and was then collected quarterly from 1991. It is the largest household study in the UK and provides the official measures of employment and unemployment. The data can be used to produce statistics about matters that affect the whole community, including work, unemployment, training, retirement, and looking after the family in the home. It is a unique source of articulated information, using international definitions of employment and unemployment and economic inactivity, together with that wide range of related topics such as occupation and training, and personal characteristics of household members aged 16 or over. As well as the main survey, several subsample and derived datasets are also produced, including longitudinal series and a Eurostat version of the dataset. Another large set of nationally representative survey microdata are the longitudinal studies. These studies involve repeated surveys of the same individuals at different points in time. They are also individual or household level and are repeated, but this time with the same sample of people, so they get the answer to the same question for the same person over an extended period of time. This type of data allow researchers to analyse change at the individual level. So, for example, who moves in and out of the labour market and why, or what sorts of things predict poor health in middle age. Panel studies tend to include measurement points called waves, and these waves contain a random sample of individuals across the population and often run for many years. So as an example, some household panel surveys run in many countries and include interviews with all household members. The core content of the questionnaires remain the same to allow changes in key measures to be studied, and sometimes additional questions can also be asked at selected waves of the study. This often reflects some sort of social change. Understanding Society is also a very popular collection held by the UK Data Service. It is the largest longitudinal household panel survey of its kind and provides vital evidence on life changes and stability. The study is based at the Institute for Social and Economic Research at the University of Essex. It follows participants over a long period of time, giving us a long-term perspective on people's lives. As a longitudinal study, it helps us explore how life in the UK is changing and what stays the same over many years. It is a household panel study interviewing everyone in a household to see how generations experience life in the UK. It helps to find out about parents and children, siblings, new family formation, and our wider family and community links. It has a large sample size. The study surveys about 40,000 households, which is around 100,000 individuals. So this allows researchers to investigate the experiences of different subgroups and ethnic minorities over time, It also includes an ethnic minority boost sample and a number of biomarkers. It also consents to be linked to administrative data such as health and education data. And the main coverage points are current employment and earnings, benefit payments, political party identification, household finances, environmental behaviours, parenting and childcare arrangements, family networks, religion, ethnicity and health. And Understanding Society is also a survey which has recently had some COVID-19 interviews as well. So they are our most recent data available from those. Another kind of longitudinal study is the cohort study. Cohort studies follow individuals who have a particular event in common. And because they're interviewed at a key point in time, they are interviewed less frequently. The most common event that these studies follow are people who were born in 1 week in a particular year. So it tracks them over time. And some of the participants will follow the cohort over their whole life. There are three main cohort studies, which we'll take a look at in a moment. And these are for the years 1958, 1970 and 2000. Rather than waves, the measurement points for cohort studies are generally called sweeps. And because they are conducted in different decades, they can be used to look at generational change. Because of this, the contents of the questionnaire is age specific, so the questions do change over time to reflect this. And they tend to focus on health, social and economic circumstances. So here you can see probably the three most popular cohort studies that we hold at the UK Data Service. The first is the 1958 National Child Development Study, and this follows the lives of following the lives of an initial 17,415 people born in England, Scotland and Wales in a single week of 1958. It has collected information on their physical and educational development, economic circumstances, employment, family life, health behaviour, well-being and social participation. The study has become an invaluable data source on topics such as the effects of social economic circumstances and child adversities on health and social mobility. It's also become an important resource for the study of genetics. The next cohort study is the 1970 British Cohort Study, and this is following the lives of around 17,000 people born in England, Scotland and Wales in a single week of 1970. Over the course of the cohort members' lives, the British Cohort Study has collected information on health, physical education and social development and economic circumstances, among other things. It has become a vital source of evidence on key policy areas such as social mobility, education, and economic insecurity. The most recent of these three studies is the Millennium Cohort Study, also known as the Child of the New Century, to the cohort members and their families. It's following the lives of around 19,000 young people born across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland who were born between 2000 and 2002. The study began with an original sample of 18,818 cohort members, and the study provides multiple measures of the cohort's members' physical, socio-emotional, cognitive and behavioural development over time, as well as detailed information on their daily life, behaviour and experiences. Alongside this, rich information on economic circumstances, parenting, relationships and family life is available from both resident parents. And National Pupil Database records has also been linked to the MSc data, including GCSE exam results. The other type of microdata that I want to mention briefly are cross-national surveys. I'm not going to talk about these in much detail, but you can find further information on our website if you would like to know more. Cross-national surveys are surveys of individual or household level data, and because the studies use the same survey instrument and where possible the same methodology and fieldwork protocols as well, this allows for comparisons to be made across many countries and nations. So topics for these sorts of data include education, income, working conditions, and poverty. And some examples of cross-national surveys that we hold are the European Quality of Life Survey, the European Election Study, European Social Survey, and the European and World Values Studies. We will move on now to international microdata. Aggregate or macrodata are data that has been aggregated to a country or regional level. It is a time data series. Depending on the database, it will be available annually, quarterly, or monthly. And we update the data regularly. Some of them are updated monthly. Our international macrodata contains socio-economic time series data aggregated to a country or regional level for a range of countries over a substantial period of time. Many of the data bank we hold are the current releases of the major statistical publications, and these tend to be produced by intergovernmental organisations such as the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development. Much of this data is only available through the UK Data Service to staff and students from UK higher or further education institutions. These are the access conditions that are agreed with the data owners. However, increasingly, more and more of these data sources, such as the World Bank databases, are now open access. So anyone can access these through us. You do not need to be affiliated with a certain type of organisation. So these are some of the themes that the data banks cover, kind of economic performance and development, trade, industry and markets, employment, migration and health, and governments. You can download the international microdata we hold through a couple of tools. These are usually UKDS Stat or the IMF e-library. The IMF, OECD and World Bank databases are freely available to users without the need for registration or authentication. And the rest of the international microdata available via us are only accessible to users from UK universities and college. If you do use UKDS Stat, you can view the data by provider, and it enables you to extract the information you require from the large socio-economic international datasets that we hold. There are also a number of user guides and video tutorials to help you use it. I think the main video on there is called something like Accessing, Exploring and Visualizing Data in UKDS Stat, and that's a good way to get you started if you're new to using something like this. And this is an example of an output that can be created using international microdata. So this graph shows the populations aged 65 and over from a number of countries between 1960 and 2017. So we can see that in 1960, the UK had the largest percentage of population over 65, which was 12%, and Cambodia had the lowest at 2.5%. Fast forwarding to 2017, Finland had the largest percentage of 23%, and Cambodia still has the lowest there, just under 5% of the population aged 65 or over. And looking at census data, so this is a different type of macro data, and this is data that comes from the census. The census has a long history, going back to 1801, and it takes place every 10 years. I'm sure a lot of you have completed one of those at some point. And we provide access to and user support for the last 5 censuses. Census data is considered the gold standard and aims to cover 100% of the population. It's also used as a baseline for other statistics. The data tends to contain detailed combinations of characteristics, and there is a wide range of topics. These include age, sex, health, religion, ethnicity, travel to work, household composition, car ownership, employment, and there were a couple of new topics added for the most recent survey in 2011. These were national identity and questions about second homes. The data is available in many geographies, right down to small geographies. This makes it possible to reliably compare different areas, which is what makes it so unique. And census data can be divided into different outputs, such as aggregate, boundary, flow, and microdata, and we'll talk about this later. Most of the census data are now open access, although there may be some restrictions on some elements of the census data that we have. Unfortunately, the licenses which hold these data may be restricted to those in higher education, but it does depend on the census year and the sorts of topics that you want to explore. So looking at census aggregate data provides counts, usually of individuals or households with particular characteristics for an area, and these may be large or small. The benefit of having census data is that it allows you to be very flexible. So you may want to produce tables or graphs based on a very small population. For example, the number of people who are aged 50 and are unemployed, which is a combination of characteristics, within each of the wards in the district of Greater Manchester, which is the set of geographical zones. These characteristics could include a wide range of information on demographic and socio-economic themes that are gathered as part of the census process. If you are interested in using the aggregate census data, then you can find InFuse for 2001 and 2011. InFuse is one of our census tools and can be found under the census support area of our website. So you can see this is a screenshot of the interface. It's all done within your web browser. And InFuse is designed to guide users in selecting census aggregate data relating to combinations of characteristics and areas of interest to the researcher. So you can pick your topics from the options shown on the screen, and you can specify your parameters, and then you can produce outputs. As you can see, their search result on there is showing 90 different topic combinations. And you can use that data to produce something that looks like this. So this is a visual example of using census data. It shows you how the number of people who define themselves as Christian has declined in England and Wales between 2001 and 2011. The dark red areas are where more than 80% of the population define themselves as Christian, and the lighter, almost pinky white areas are where less than 50% of the people surveyed define themselves as Christian. We also hold census boundary data for 1981 to 2011 for a range of geographies. So the first map you see on the top left is the largest. So you can see regions, and then you can zoom in to smaller and smaller geographical areas until you get to wards. The smallest area you can see here is super output areas, and you can see where we've zoomed into the Wirral. The boundaries are available in a range of geographical information system formats, and then we also have a number of tools that you can use to extract the information that you would like. So this is a list of the tools that you can access through us, boundary data tools. And they're particularly useful if you're interested in doing things such as mapping. They can be used for different types of mapping exercises, including looking at flows and migrations between different areas. So the first one you can see on that list is called Easy Download. And it contains the most regularly requested census boundaries, and they are available as ready-to-use national data sets in the most popular formats. And you can go down the list and see Boundary Data Selector, Postcode Directory Download, Postcode Data Selector, GeoConvert, Thematic Mapper, Metadata Viewer, Wicked, which we'll talk a little bit about in a moment, and CASWeb. Census Flow data is also known as interaction data, and this is data that relates to the flow of people between places. So whereas most census data relate to counts of people at single locations, flow data describes interactions between two locations, usually origins and destinations. The most common flow data does relate to migration and commuting flows, although data from the latest 2011 census also includes information on movements between main and second addresses. Currently, migration and commuting data from the 1981, 1991, 2001 and 2011 census are available through WICID, which is our web-based interfaced census interaction data. And there's also some annual migration data derived from the NHS patient registered. WICID is a flexible interface providing access to this flow data, and these data contain counts which are linked to an origin and a destination. The next type of census data is census microdata. So we also provide access to cross-sectional census microdata. These again are anonymized individual level records sampled from a single census. They are large individual level files which resemble the sort of data that might be collected directly from a questionnaire. And because individual records contain a wide range of individual and household characteristics, the data enable multivariate analysis for which a wide range of purposes. Census microdata does tend to be more flexible as you can use it to produce your own tables and populations. We hold contemporary data, as I say, from the 1981 to 2011 censuses, and also microdata samples from 1961 onwards. So these are the sample of anonymized records, SARS, and they have a sample of between 1% and 5% depending on the data set. And these are like surveys, but they've been produced from the census. They tend to be analysed using a package as well, such as SPSS or Stata. So now you know the sorts of data that we hold and what it can be used for. I will just talk to you a little bit about how to register with the UK Data Service. The way you register with us can vary depending on which particular sector or organisation you come from. So if you're affiliated with a UK university or college, then you can use your own institutional username and password to register and then log on to the UK Data Service. If you are outside of a UK university, then you can still register with us, but you will have to apply for a UK Data Archive username. So you just have an additional step to go through. And this page on our website guides you through how to register depending on what sort of organisation you fit in under. So in order to register with us, you'll need to click on the login or register link on the UK Data Service homepage. That is just a dark box at the top left of the page. As I say, if you are a member of a UK higher education institution, then you can select your organisation from the drop-down list that will appear once you click that link and select your organisation. You'll then be redirected to your institutional portal where you'll enter your username and your password. If you are not from a UK higher education organisation, as I say, you will need to apply for the UK Data Archive username. To do that, you simply need to follow the instructions given at each stage to complete your registration. If you need help with this, then you can contact us, or we have a video tutorial on our website which will guide you through the process. The key thing to remember is to include as much information as possible when requesting a username. If associated with an organisation, please ensure you list your email address that is associated with that organisation, as this is how we confirm your affiliation with them. If you're not affiliated with an organisation, that's fine, but please ensure that you list your reasoning for accessing the data in the personal notes section of the registration form. The access team screen each of these username requests individually. So we do have a three-day turnaround time before processing these requests. But if you've included as much information as possible, it makes us really easy to approve your username, and we don't need to come back to you to ask for any further clarification of that. Once you are registered with us, you will need to use that same login or register link to log into your account. Once you're registered with us, you will be able to search our data catalogue. And we really do have something for everyone. Each data set has an individual data catalogue page with lots of information about the contents of the data. It has an abstract section, a methodology section, and the full citation that I was talking about earlier. For many of the data catalogue pages, we also have user guides which are available. They're usually created by the data depositors. And the other important thing to know is that we have different licenses associated with each of the data. So I've already mentioned open access. So these are available to people without any registration, although you may need to register with us if you want to download and compare certain variables. Our next level is end user license. When you register with us, you agree to the terms and conditions of our end user license upon registering with us. But you are able to then access and download EUL data right away. We also have special license data, which is more sensitive than end user license data. And to access this, you do need to complete a form to give us full details of your project and justification for your use of the data. You'll also be able to confirm that you can store the data safely. We have a criteria that we ask users to ensure they can meet. And that completed form gets sent to the data owner for approval. If we receive approval from the data owner, we can then grant you access to that data. And the final type of data license that we have is secure access data. So this involves becoming an accredited researcher, for which you need to complete a safe researcher training course. And you never actually download this data. It is made available via a virtual environment that we have called the Secure Lab. I believe my colleague Maddie next week is conducting a webinar which covers the different types of data and the licenses. Here again, you can see the homepage of our website. The white search box is there, and it currently has education typed into it. So at the most basic level, you can do a keyword search. If you know the title of the data you wish to consult, so after today you might want to view understanding society data, you can pop understanding society into that search box. And if you know the study number for the data, you can enter that into that box as well. Once you hit search, you will see our data catalogue, and you can then filter the results further by date or country or the type of data that you wish to find. We'll just go over a few useful resources and places that you can go for further help. We do have a number of other resources which are particularly useful for people who are new to the service. In particular, we have help pages on everything from how to register and access data, and how to find data using Discover, which is our variable and question bank, where you can search and browse variables and questions from survey databases. As I pointed out earlier on in the webinar, there is a frequently asked questions and contact page at the very top of our homepage. And as you know, because you've joined, we do hold a number of webinars at both an introductory level and more advanced levels. As I said, my colleague Maddie is conducting the Finding and Accessing Data at the UK Data Service webinar next week. It's the 19th of November, 3 till 4, so the same time as this one. And this webinar follows nicely on from this one, as it's a practical overview of the tools that the service provides. She goes into more detail about our data catalogue, and which will help you make the most of your data searches. It also discusses the best approaches to searching for data and how to use the search tool to narrow your search results. And it also explores other service resources provided to help you get the data you need, and other related information as well. We also have resources to help you figure out how to use the data that we provide. There is a section of the website dedicated to this. We really do want to see data used to its maximum potential, so to help with that, we offer these resources. The Use section at the top of the website homepage contains information and advice and support. It also provides links to our help desk where you can ask any questions. There is also information about user guides and video tutorials, as well as resources designed for teachers. So for example, you can see on the left-hand side there is a list, and we have data skills modules available. These introductory level modules are designed for users who want to get to grips with the key aspects of surveys or longitudinal and aggregate data. The modules can be conducted in your own time, and you're able to dip in and out of them when you need to. As I say, they are an introduction to key aspects of the data, using short videos, interactive quizzes, and there's activities using open access software where possible. Each of the modules stand alone, but those with little experience of surveys may find it useful to start with the survey data module before moving on to things like the longitudinal data module. And as I say, we have the help and contact us section of the website where you can get in touch with our help desk. I do 1 day a week on the help desk. That's part of the responsibility within my team. So we are able to answer a whole range of queries from the very basic to the very complex, and we always try our best to help. Listed on this slide are some of the most common examples of data-related queries, so finding suitable data, identifying specific variables, understanding the data, or sometimes pointing out any problems you think there may be. And we're also able to advise on technical issues and more general queries as well. We do have an email address, which we will direct you to in a moment, but we also have web forms. These can be found by going to the Contact Us section, and when you complete a web form, they are directed to the team best suited to help you. So if you email us, that will automatically come through the help desk, and then we may have to divert your email manually, but if you complete a web form, this is done for you. We also have a telephone number. However, like a lot of you, I'm sure we are currently working remotely, so we are unable to answer the phone at the moment, I'm afraid. Okay, so this brings us to the end of the webinar.